India, we pride ourselves on equal rights and opportunities for men and women. We like to believe our male students and female students are treated the same. But does the ground reality match these claims? We often see a paradox in discussions over women. Women are not allowed to go out after a certain time in the evening in our colleges and universities. They're told what to wear and are sometimes even told when to use their mobile phones, all in the name of protection. This blatant patriarchy in the guise of protection has been called out today by the Kerala High Court. It's an interesting case from the Kozhikode Government Medical College, which is symbolic of a wider fault line in our society. Should women pay the price for their protection and be restricted? Well, here's what happened in this case. On 16th of November, protests broke out in the Kozhikode Government Medical College. Female students were upset that a curfew of 9:30 p.m. was imposed only on the girls' hostel when facilities like library were open till 11:30 p.m. What's more, the boys' hostel of the same college has no such curfew. The curfew rules are so strict that the girls cannot even walk inside the campus after 9:30 in the night. These students didn't stop at protests. They moved the Kerala High Court on the 21st of November. And today, the High Court has issued notices to the state government, the college, and the Women's Commission in the state. Now, the stance of the court is interesting. They say, and I quote, "In modern times, any patriarchism, even in the guise of offering protection based on gender, would have to be frowned upon because girls, as much as boys, are capable of taking care of themselves." The court goes on to say that if the girls are not able to take care of themselves, the state has to make them competent rather than locking them up. Now, the fact is, this is not just about one college in Kerala. This kind of casual discrimination abounds in our centers of higher education. In 2019, a Calicut female student was expelled for using her phone in the hostel after 10 p.m. Only the girls' hostel was restricted from using phones between 10 p.m. and 6 in the morning. Another college, again in Kerala, in 2019 was dragged to court where students protested rules that barred girls from, believe it or not, going for evening shows of movies. The boys, of course, have no such rules. The Union Christian College in Kerala has also faced protests because women students were not allowed to even step out during Sundays and holidays. But before you start thinking it's only colleges in Kerala that discriminate, this patriarchy is a widespread problem. Delhi University's Ambedkar Ganguly House saw female students breaking open the gate protesting against stringent curfews. In Hyderabad, St. Francis College imposed only long kurtas with sleeves for their students. Jamia Millia Islamia saw protests by girls due to discriminatory curfew timings. Banaras Hindu University actually had a different menu for male and female students. Female students complain that the boys get chicken curry, we don't. The list goes on. So is this protection or is this just pure patriarchy? And why is it so deeply entrenched in our society? Today, I'm speaking with Lalitha Kumaramangalam, former Chief NCW. I have on the show with me Heena Hanan, General Secretary of the Students' Union of Kozhikode Medical College and one of the petitioners. Furqan Qamar, former advisor, Education of the Planning Commission of India is with me. Nayan Parikh, Educationist, is also with me, and I'm also speaking with Karuna Nundy. Welcome to all of you and thank you so much for speaking with us today. Let me begin with going to Ms. Lalitha. Because the State Women's Commission has also been made a party to the case now. Now, explain this to us, ma'am, especially in higher educational institutions. Why is there such an all-pervasive discrimination on curfew timings? What is the rationale?
Actually, I think there are just two very simple reasons. One, the very deep-rooted, deep-seated, continuing patriarchy that is seen in educational institutions across the board, across the country. And two, I think the lack of responsibility of a government which is considered a very liberal government and with such high levels of education, awareness, etc., to take upon themselves the responsibility to, one, to make sure that women feel safe and can keep themselves safe, and two, to make sure that the machinery of law and justice backs women to the hilt and ensures their safety. These are basically, I mean, overall, these are the two reasons. Within each, there are so many subsects that can be looked at and can be talked about. But the umbrella is that very, very deep-seated, continuing patriarchy and a lack of, I may not say effort, but certainly the effort to not take on, or the desire not to want to take responsibility to ensure that, one, women are more than capable of taking care of themselves, and two, that the system backs them if anything ever goes wrong.
No, I want to know the details of this particular case. That's why I'm glad Heena Hanan has joined us on the case. Heena, thank you for speaking with us today. Explain to us that after the protests on 16th November, why did you go, you and of course other petitioners and the girls in the college, go to the court? What were the issues that you were facing?
Okay. Okay, first of all, thank you for inviting me to this program. So about this case, actually, we did not start the movement by the protest that happened on November 16th. Actually, the protest is called Azadi, which was started by the Independence College Union 2021. Our college union is 2022, and the protest, the Azadi movement, was started by College Union 2021. And from that day onwards, we have been sending many letters. We have been conducting mini marathons, many types of protests against this curfew, against this time limit which was imposed in our hostels. So this November 16th, in one of our hostels called LH4, the assistant warden of that hostel sent a WhatsApp message that now, from now onwards, the curfew is going to be strict, that every student is supposed to enter the hostel at 9:30 p.m. and in other cases, strict actions will be taken. So the students of that hostel, not any other people, the students of that hostel did they did a quick protest. They decided to protest that day when at 9:55 p.m. They stepped out of the hostels and they started sitting outside the gate, and they had many slogans. They protested against the law and they entered the hostel after 12 p.m. This was what started the protest on November 16th.
But 1 minute, Heena, just explain to us why the protest. Is the protest because, you know, you students want to go out of the hostel after 9:30 p.m. or is it also because there are different rules for the male students and different for female students?
Okay, according to the order which was brought by the Higher Education Department on 2019, all the students, irrespective of boys and girls, are supposed to enter the hostel at 9:30 p.m. and nobody is allowed to step outside the hostel after 9:30 p.m. But it is imposed in every colleges, or for that I'm sure that in every colleges, and in our college only for girls. In case of boys' hostel, there are no gates, there are no strict monitoring, there is no securities, etc. Whereas in cases of girls' hostel or in hostels where ladies are staying, these rules are strictly implemented. So actually the fight was started against the curfew rule, against the rule which was implemented that at 9:30 p.m. all the students should enter the hostel. But practically it is happening only for girls. So this is a kind of gender discrimination too.
Absolutely, and that's the point. Why the gender discrimination? Furqan Qamar is also with us. Mr. Furqan, this we are seeing again and again. And you know, the reason why we wanted to pick up this story today is obviously the case in this Kerala college, and what the Kerala High Court has said is important. But this is a general sort of outlook in our society. In education, in homes, let's be honest, different rules for male children and different rules for female children. Where is this coming from and how can they do this in an educational institution?
So, Tamanna, I think you have answered this question that it is a problem of the society at large. Of course, within the educational institutions, nobody could ever justify that there should be discrimination between boys and girls. At the same time, it would also be said that if you are part of a community, that community should have a right to decide some rules for itself. Quite often, the problem arises because some people take extreme actions and extreme decisions. And these extreme decisions and extreme actions are always a problem. Over a period of time, we are forgetting the culture of the dialogue, discussions, and deliberations with all stakeholders. I think let's understand, when children are admitted to a campus, be it a college or a university, they come with certain kinds of confidence in the system that they are safe, that they are secure, they live a comfortable life and whatever. And the universities and colleges somehow believe that the students are safer in the campus than outside the campus.
I think we are, Mr. Qamar, with all due respect, we are overlooking the obvious discrimination. Female students are safe when they're behind the gate. Male students are all superheroes. Nothing happens to them.
No, I already said that nobody could ever justify any discrimination between
But
boys
it's
and girls.
happening. But it's happening. It happens all the time. Karuna Nundy wants to come in. Yes, Karuna.
Let me just complete.
I'll come back to you, sir. I'll come back to you, sir. Let me just quickly get Karuna's interjection and then I'll come back to you. Yes.
If we're calling him sir, let's at least call me Ms. Nundy, Ms. Inamdar. You're usually so great. The Pinjra Tod movement in about 5 or 6 years ago was on specifically this, on very explicit discrimination that was happening across Delhi University, where they had completely different curfew times, etc., for women. Now, this is very interesting, and I think you've made an extremely good point, Ms. Inamdar, which is that
Ms. Nundy, you can call me Tamanna. I'll be more comfortable if that's okay with you.
Whatever you're comfortable with. So, Tamanna, the de facto discrimination that you pointed out, right, is equally illegal under the law, right? And I think that the fact that the High Court has recognized that there is the idea of protection here instead of women's constitutional freedoms coming in, and the fact that the High Court has recognized the de facto patriarchy that is limiting the freedoms of these these students makes it quite a significant order. Let's see what happens going forward, but this makes it an extremely significant order. Of course, the thing to remember is that this is a government college, and in a government college, Article 12, it's under the writ jurisdiction of the court. What would be more interesting, what would be even more interesting rather, because I think the High Court is already to be congratulated for this, taking this view, is that if it's a private college, will the idea of horizontal discrimination apply as per Vishakha, where even private workplaces are required not to discriminate, in fact, to take active steps to facilitate the freedom from patriarchy and sexual harassment of employees. And here, the issue would be for students. Because, of course,
but Ms. Nundy, I get your point, but, the law can only go that far. The truth is, it's so subliminally entrenched in the way we behave and the way we conduct ourselves. I just want to go back to Mr. Qamar because, he was completing his point. You're right, Mr. Qamar, when you say that the colleges believe students are safer on the campus. These students are then going to go out in the real world. It's the same idea. You don't want the hassle of being responsible for female students who could be more vulnerable.
That was the point that I was trying to explain. So universities have been believing, rightly or wrongly, that their students are safer on the campus than outside the campus. And then they have made certain kinds of rules for boys and girls, and quite often, invariably, across the campuses, you will find that these rules are, to a large extent, discriminatory. They apply one set of rules for the girls' hostel and the other set of rules for the boys' hostel, which is wrong. But quite often, you will also find that the parents coming to the campuses and asking universities, I have been vice chancellor of 2 universities, and parents expressing concerns that they want their girl student particularly more safe and secure. So the outside campus environment, and particularly if the campus is open with the public places cutting across the campuses, then these kinds of concerns increases. Now, I think I do not know the specific of this case, and I think that this case is still not decided as yet. People would present, and I think the court would consider all point of view. The point that I'm making is that what is making the problem is that the decision is taken arbitrarily and is imposed from top. Supposing a university or the provost of the hostels of different universities have a dialogue and discussion that what kind of rules do you want to be bound by? The library...
I agree. I agree there should be a discussion. Clearly, all students will want no rules or minimal rules. They'll want to come in whenever they want to, and there has to be a balance there. But I think when you're broadening it like this, we are overlooking the fact of the obvious discrimination that exists. Mr. Nayan Parikh, I want to understand this because I've given a lot of examples in various colleges and universities where the rules are different for boys and different for girls. Let me get Mr. Parikh on the screen, please. Why do you think that is happening?
I feel, Tamanna, that in a way, all of us are responsible for that. And this is, by and large, an issue of the society. And let us look at it more logically. My daughter studies in the US. And I think we are always concerned about her safety. And I think all of us who have young family members are obviously concerned about them. In India and Kerala, we need to look at what kind of crimes are there against women as of now? And is there a gender equality there? Which means that crimes against men and women, if they are more against women, we need to work at it and see that they come down. But up to the time that these come down and that we empower women, and we must do that, what is the intermediary action that we must take? And therefore, whoever is responsible for safety of those young women, do they have the necessary authority? And they must do it in a consultative manner, as the earlier speaker said, that they must evolve rules which are taking into consideration the current situation, which means that as of now, how women are vulnerable in these crimes, are they more or less? I was looking at some of the crime figures, and in Kerala, I found that compared to 2016, in 2021, crimes against women have gone up by 10%. And
Mr. Parikh, can I
think
ask
we
what's
need
the point
we
you're
need
trying
to
to
reduce
make?
that. We need
No,
to reduce
what's the
that,
point
but
you're
up
trying
to
to
the time
make?
they are increasing. We need to take that into consideration today. We don't want any situation for our young family members
the problem
to suffer.
with that, problem with that thinking, sir, is
Yes.
that, okay, let me get Heena to respond to this. So by the time these crimes against women go down, Heena's education is over. Her education is over.
I understand.
And I don't know how many more generations have to wait.
I am saying that
You will
any
first
rule would
fix
mean that
the
we will need
crimes.
to pay a
Let me come
price
And then
in
she'll
short run
be
for a
let
long
out.
run situation.
Okay. Lalita
Can I
ji,
come in,
yes.
please? Yeah.
Yes,
the
Ms.
tragedy
Qamar
behind
Mangalam,
this
yes.
is the tragedy behind this is what we seem to be all forgetting is that the socio-cultural gender bias that exists in India, we all agree that it's one of the most pernicious things in our society and it must change. We're always talking about changing mental attitudes. Now, it is educational institutions that can really help in this change, beginning right from school, where you teach not just the girls, you start teaching the boys too. We are not talking about this. Here you have an educational institution which, instead of protecting the equal rights that any girl should have regardless across the board, is actually using the current security risk that she may be at to curtail her freedom. Now, at one point you said that the library is open till 11:30, but these girls can only go up to 9:30. Don't you think that if there is any person from the male gender who likes to sit in the library, he has an automatic advantage over these girls? The whole day they slog, they study. and other things. In the evenings, when they feel that they can go to the library to do reference work, and we are talking about college, not school, where notes may be given to you. Don't the girls have isn't there an inherent bias against the girls? We are supposed to be providing equality in everything in our country. Where are we doing it? And how can we let off an educational institution that has an attitude like this by saying that they are worried about the safety of their girls? If they are,
no, what I don't understand is who are you protecting them from? Who are you protecting these girls from? Shouldn't you look at that?
Whatever they may say, they may be claiming
that whoever is the so-called harmful entity should be curbed. Exactly.
You can't do it by restricting their freedom or their rights. That just can't be legal.
Mr. Parikh, Mr. Parikh, just this point. No, your response to this point, that if the library is open till 11:30, just because I'm a male student, I get that extra time. I get that leg up. And you see how that plays through this woman's life, through that girl student's life, in the workplace, in her promotions, it just goes on and on.
Obviously, no. If the library is open up to 11:30, it is understood. But if library is also closed at 9:30, then it is closed for everybody. So I'm saying that there is no justification in keeping libraries open till 11:30 and women not allowed there. That, of course, nobody in logical mind would do that. So that is something which is not acceptable. But for whatever good that we want, are we ready to pay a small price? And if that is understood, and if it is like, I would discuss with my daughter as to what would be a good time for her to come back. And it would not be imposed on her, but there would be a concern. And I would also look at what is the vulnerability of my daughter for a crime vis-a-vis somebody else. And I would need to therefore kind of, handle it in a manner which is delicate. And I would always want that she is capable, and I would always want that crimes against her are reduced. But at least whoever is responsible for the safety must be given responsibility, and authority must go hand in hand. And therefore, the person who is most responsible for that ward must be given that kind of authority as to how she must exercise it in a consultative manner.
The thing is, I'm going out on a limb here while I say this, that this is exactly the sort of thinking that has let women not get education. This is in a most perverse way. I'm not saying you are saying this, so let me qualify that. But the same basic theory has been perverted, for example, by the Taliban in Afghanistan, saying that women will not go to school because they have to be protected.
Tamanna, you are reversing the argument.
So
where does
me whenever you want me to respond
end?
to this, Tamanna.
Okay. Let me get Mr. Qamar in, because he came in, and then come to you. Mr. Qamar, my point is, where does it stop?
No, Tamanna, we are making progress, and we should be making more rapid strides. We should make the surroundings of the campuses and the whole society as safe for everybody, for men and women and for boys and for elderly and everybody. The point that I'm making is that by not doing that, there would be many parents who would be reluctant to send their children, particularly the female children, to campuses which do not impose reasonable kinds of restrictions. They send their girl child to campus because they think that there is a reasonable level of safety and security assured for them. So the argument that you are giving is that this is a way of stopping women coming to campus. I would say that no, please don't consider like
No,
this.
but that's not my argument, Mr. Qamar. That's not my argument. My argument is that the base theory that to protect someone who is vulnerable, you should lock them up, you should restrict them, is akin and has been perverted by what the Taliban is doing in Afghanistan. It's like me right now working at 10 in the evening, being stopped from doing it because I would be at more harm than a man doing my job. That's what my problem is with this theory. And I get your point that maybe some parents will say, "Fir hum padhne bhejenge hi nahi." But what is the solution then? Is this the solution? Ms. Nundy, would you like to come in on this?
The problem with what Mr. Parikh and Mr. Qamar are purporting to be logic is that it's not logical at all. And it is, in fact, the pleasant form of the deepest patriarchy that limits women. Education very frequently is seen as a pit stop for women between their father's homes and their husband's homes. And in such situations, you have, in the guise of protection, the idea of protecting the woman's chastity. So the idea of protecting the woman's chastity is protecting her from rape, right? Not murder, but rape. And also making sure that she doesn't go out and voluntarily have intercourse or other what they think is inappropriate social behavior with the opposite gender. This is the kind of thinking that also has resulted in a female workforce participation rate, our labor workforce participation rate, being at 11%, and this is before COVID, in Delhi and in the capital city. And it's gone down from about 35% in the 1990s to about 25% pre-COVID and even further down now. This is a massive problem. If you have a problem with your own daughters, after the age of 18 in particular, exercising their constitutional freedoms, then you are free to have discussions with them. If the women are concerned for safety, so-called safety, which is what this is, the opposition to this extremely excellent approach by the Kerala High Court is being looked at, then look at what the women are saying will protect them. Is it lights? Is it, how can you support?
Let's actually ask them. Heena is here with us. I think we should hear from her. We should hear from her as a female student in the middle of this debate. And you're hearing all sides. Heena, you've probably heard this from other people, maybe in your family or other, people you know, saying, what about your protection? Will you be safe after 9:30 in the night? Kaun iski responsibility lega?
Yes, the universal excuse for this problem is always safety. Everybody, including the authorities, everybody talk about the safety. They tell us, what about your safety? What if something happens to you? How long are we supposed to wait? How more are we supposed to protest? That's what we wanted to know. Like, if safety is your problem, isn't it their duty to ensure safety? Isn't it their duty to ensure our safety? Actually, the point raised by Justice Deva Ramachandran, our judge was actually very solid, it was very convincing. He said that, is locking up the students a solution for it? Do you think they will be attacked only after 9:30 p.m.? It is the aggressors who should be locked up. Locking up students in the guise of security is not a solution. It is the result of a thought coming from institutionalized patriarchy. Always thinking about safety or using safety as an excuse is always a reason or is always coming from something like inbuilt patriarchy. It is the duty of the authorities. It is the duty of the concerned people to ensure our safety. It is not you are not supposed to lock us. We are not supposed to get inside the hostel, or we are not supposed to stay inside the hostel after 9:30 p.m. just because there will be some attackers, or just because some men are bad, or there will be some aggressors outside. If it is the duty of the authorities to ensure our safety.
Heena, I applaud you. I applaud you for speaking so clearly. You're saying, lock up the aggressors. Why are you locking us up? Lock up the aggressors. If they are the ones who are going to threaten you, lock them up. They are the ones who seem like a danger to society.
Yes, that is something that the society should get inside their head. Like, everybody, including the authorities or every people or every common people, talk about the safety. Everybody say that this is for your own safety. Like, you are the people who is vulnerable here. No, lock up the people who is doing this. This is just like victim blaming. Like, if you are going to be attacked, so you are supposed to stay inside. Never. Lock up the people. Reduce the crime rate. Not just because the crime rate is so high, you cannot say that you should not get outside the hostel. These are our fundamental
So
rights.
I want to
We are
bring Mr.
supposed to
Parikh
get
up on
upset.
the screen. 1 minute. This is important. I want to bring Mr. Parikh up on the screen. He made the point that yes, the crime rate should be reduced, but until then, till we come to that situation, we have to take whatever steps we have to. Today, Mr. Parikh, Heena is saying, lock up the aggressors. Don't lock me up.
Tamanna, please understand that the aggressors are not defined. We don't know. Who would you lock up right now? And therefore, I need to consider the safety of my own daughter or child. If I know the aggressor, that these are the aggressors, then I can always lock them up. If I don't have that choice, what is the next best that I can do?
I think you should
100%
get
sure
the
that all the
boys
people,
to be in curfew
Tamanna,
at
please let me
9:30.
complete. Tamanna, please
Let the
let me
boys
complete.
be under curfew after
Please,
9:30.
please
Everyone
comment
seems
here.
safe.
No. Please let me complete what I'm saying, because you asked my opinion. That I am saying that up to the time if you can arrest the aggressor, please do that. If you can do it on suspicion, also do that. Up to the time, I think all of us here have a common thread that we are wanting safety for women. We also want them to have good life and all the liberty. Equally, like a man would have, women must have that. And that is, I think, a basic. Now, the path for that could be different. But that is where I think let us have an acceptance of accepting the views. As to, what are your views? My view could be different, but we all want the same thing. Safety and equality for all the people.
1 minute.
No,
And that is
How?
what
one
we are
minute.
looking at.
Miss Kumar
I
Mangalam
don't
wants
think
to
we
come
all
in.
want the same
Miss
thing.
Kumar Mangalam
At
wants
this
to come in.
moment,
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I really don't. It doesn't sound to me as if we all want the same thing. The
We
women
want
on
that.
this panel
So I'm
sound
making
totally
it clear
different from
that
what
that
the
is
men
what
are
is
saying.
required.
I'm
That is
sorry.
what is wanted.
With all due respect to both of the gentlemen on the screen, I'm very sorry. It doesn't sound like that to me. And I've heard this for years and years and years. In the name of protection, women's freedoms are being controlled. Whether it is by the state, whether it is by their families or society or the institutions where they work, where they study, etc., they are being controlled. I'd like to ask a question of anybody, all parents, those who are there on the screen and those who may not be. How many of us are so keen to send our children abroad to study, including our girls? We don't think of their safety then? Most countries like the US, America, Australia, and many, many other countries, they do not have these restrictions. It's not as if women are always 100% safe there. But in the name of safety, the basic, one of the most basic tools of empowerment is education. If during the period when a child is being educated, a girl child in this case we're talking about, or a young woman is being educated, you curtail their freedom in the name of security, safety, whatever, then you are hitting you're actually hitting at the base of what could one day change society. Women also need to be more empowered, and nobody here is talking about working with the boys and the men. The rules are only meant for women. Why aren't there rules for men also? There are also
I want to
boys
hear from
studying in those
Heena.
colleges.
I want to
Why
hear
are there
from
no
Heena.
rules for the men?
I want to hear from Heena today.
Why is the responsibility
Because she
always only
is
for women?
living. She is living what we're talking about. Heena, you are living what we are talking about. Perhaps, I can say quite clearly that the women, at least on this panel, have come to a stage where we get our way. We've fought those battles and we've reached here.
Yeah.
But you still have to fight that battle. So I want to hear from you today, Heena.
This is clear gender discrimination. According to the law, both boys and girls are supposed to enter the hostels at 9:30 p.m. and nobody is allowed to get it. But in none of the hostels, as far as my knowledge, in none of the hostels, the boys are not monitored. After 9:30 p.m., they can go out if they want to drink tea, or if they want to take food, or if they want to go for a second show. They can go out and nobody is there to monitor them. But in cases of ladies or in cases of girls, after 9:30 p.m., even in cases of emergencies, we are not supposed to get out of their hostels. This is clear gender discrimination itself. And just because on an excuse of a safety with something, safety is something that the authorities should promise us. Our fundamental rights cannot be restricted just because saying some excuse like safety. So just because of some excuse like safety, you cannot impose some rules just on us. This is really patriarchal. This is really institutionalized patriarchy.
We are not saying that crime rates are not high. We're not saying that women are not vulnerable, but they are vulnerable everywhere. In the day, in their homes. Will we stop living? That's the question we're asking today. Important observations by the Kerala High Court. Will be tracking this story, but I want to thank all of you for joining us this evening on the lead story on Beyond the Headlines.